It's the People's Potluck Podcast, and I'm your host, as always, Mr. Pierre Sledge, and let's talk about alcohol. Yeah, so this is going to be a companion piece, if you will, to an old video I did about why I don't drink anymore. And I was never a big drinker, so I'll give you an overview. I was never a big drinker. I drank to fit in with guys who I knew I was different than, but these were the people I was around. I've had a drink in about 30 years. Uh, no regrets. Ultimately, I stopped drinking because it wasn't for me. I didn't need it. It didn't really do anything for me. It wasn't a high that it just wasn't a high that I needed to have or wanted to have. So I moved on from it. I didn't plan on not drinking anymore. It just kind of happened. And I was all right with that. But I did it out of spite when I had some friends in college down at Central State who, when I decided to change my my drinking habits, they didn't support me at all. And it was just kind of like, oh, okay, well, I ain't gonna do this, I ain't gonna do that. And next thing you know, it was 3 months, it was a year, it was 3 years, and 5 years, decade, and 20 years. Now it's like 30. So that was it. And I never looked back and was like, oh man, I'd really like to have a drink. Well, outside of when my fantasy team is whack, which is the life I'm living right now. But I digress. So, alcohol, from here on out, I'm going to refer to alcohol kind of lumped in with substances in general, drugs, and all of it together. Basically, it's been the biggest problem I've had in my life. And that isn't meaning that I had the problem with it with ingesting it. It was pretty much a lot of the people that I love or fell in love with have had some sort of problem with substances, and because I had this in my family early on in life, of course, I wound up taking that trauma to adulthood. So, at a certain point, I looked up and I had to reflect on my relationships that I had, and I couldn't think of one that didn't have some sort of issue with alcohol in it. And so it started to become like a dark cloud over me. And then I was single at certain points, and it was just like, dang. And I was trying to stick to my guns, and I was like, no, I don't really want to find someone who drinks, so I'm going to try to find someone who drinks. And so other people around me would say stuff like, man, you ain't going to find nobody unless they in church and blah, blah, blah. So, and I was like, man, I'm not going to church. I mean, I'm not religious. I'm not doing that. So, um, it kind of became a complex. I let him Jedi mind trick me, and I started to really believe that I wasn't going to find someone unless they were like into church and stuff. So, but I still tried, and I got on those dating apps, and it was dreadful. Dreadful at times, but at times exciting, and then dreadful again. But it wasn't too bad because I met the right woman for me on the not an app, website, eHarmony. Although what's weird is I don't even see any commercials for eHarmony anymore. But I digress again. That is the story of my life. So, um, alcohol and drugs, I just didn't think that I was going to be able to really move on from it. I thought I was just going to have to settle and just compromise and maybe get lucky and find some woman who didn't drink who didn't drink to the point where it made me uncomfortable. And that was always the big problem because the women who I met and I told, whenever I would tell them I didn't drink, they'd always downplay their drinking. You know, it was always, oh, I don't drink that much. I don't drink that much. It's like, you're 22. Shut up. Shut the hell up. You know, but I believed them I took their word on it. And then, you know, you find out later, it's like, she's a drunk. She's a drunk. So I'm with the drunk. What do I do now? So just going back and forth, fighting, having the same argument over and over again, and eventually you break up. That was pretty much the routine in North Dakota in college. So I had I had a lot of friends. I've always had a lot of friends, but there were times in North Dakota, especially, where I was starting to move without certain people. So it was like part of this becoming for me, where I was becoming this individual where I could handle not not going not going with the flow and marching to the beat of my own drums. So, you know, there were very few black people in North Dakota, the school that I went to. Very few. So of course you gravitate to things that are very relative and similar. So of course the black guys all gravitated towards each other. But with that gravitational pull, I discovered that some guys just weren't for me, and I was okay with that. You know, whatever the reason was, but in some ways they weren't. They just felt like, well, I should be hanging out with them regardless, you know. But for me, the way they acted, just I couldn't. That was not the way that the first crop when I first came there. The first couple years, the black guys didn't act like that. We were all. There was more togetherness with us. There was more of a brotherhood for sure. But later on, it was too competitive. It was too contentious with each other, and I found myself just not being friends with very many of them anymore because I was at some point I was just trying to get out of school, and I don't think that was the number one priority in their lives. They were, they were just still knocking around every girl they could and stuff like that. Don't get me wrong, I wanted some of that too, but when I had a girlfriend, that was it. I was with her. That's who I wanted to be with, and I had a girlfriend through these times. Arguing about alcohol, of course. What the hell? So, but they were doing stuff together, like going to clubs, doing those events that drinking is involved with, and I just didn't want no part of it. I didn't like these people enough when they were sober. I damn sure wasn't going with them somewhere, and then they get me in trouble or something. Nah, going in one car or something, and I gotta wait on it. No way. I just couldn't do it. I just didn't. I didn't respect them like that. They didn't respect me enough. Have enough respect for who I was. So there's no way I was putting that on the line. And we were all, if nothing else, all the black men were always quite aware of where we were, if you get my meaning. So that was things that sometimes we had to think about, like, okay, do I want to go here by myself? Do I want to go with these people because these people fuck around and be on something? Just you have to have an element of trust with somebody there, because you never know. You look up and it's like, man, you got weed on you, or you got this on you, and the police then pulled you over. Could have very well been the case with people I don't trust. But at any rate, so yeah, so it was a problem. It's what I'm trying to detail is that the alcohol, or the lack of alcohol, just it kind of made it made things hard. And as I went on, and I thought it would subside as I got older, but it didn't. But in college, yeah, it was. At times, I felt like a the black outcast because most of those younger guys, I just didn't. They just didn't. They just didn't have nothing for me. You know, I told all those guys, I was like, look, my door is open. If you need anything from me to tell you how to get through being in this place that's unlike where you're from, I'll give you every gem that I have. But outside of that, I mean, I tried to do things like on campus with them, like go to dinner and lunch and all that, and they sitting up here having food fights and stuff like that. And so it's like, nah, I can't do this. But but I did gain one lifelong friend out of it, and that was Cliff. And Cliff, at the time, he was a little older than those guys, still younger than me, but he was great friends with some of those guys, and that was fine by me. But Cliff would also stop by, and we chop it up about real things, and that's kind of where we kind of became friends, just from those those mentoring ish type conversations we were having. I don't even know if that's why he felt like he was coming to my room to be mentored, but he did, and I was always there. You know, rather be there than to be out getting in trouble, and that's what could happen a lot of times. But and that's what was happening to a lot of the other brothers who were there. They were getting in trouble, so I was focused at a certain point. But um, yeah, substances, I fucking hate them. Still have this big fear, and a lot goes with. It's just the childhood trauma the aforementioned childhood trauma, mostly from my mama, and that's not to call her out. It's just the truth. It's been most difficult with her because she's the person that I've probably loved more than anybody in the world, and it's hard to take those L's with that type of love for someone. But I've taken some big L's with it. But you got to move on. But ultimately, I just wonder if there are any other people who have had similar paths and similar experiences. Now, there are a few people that I've talked to who kind of, they have their own ways that they were kind of outcasted, whether it be from substances or something like that. But me, I have a ton of experience with that stuff, and it's the bane of my existence, is, as I call it at times. I just don't want to deal with it anymore, and I've created a network that I have where I don't have to, where I I don't really um I don't really have a problem anymore, and I can say no. And not like, there was recently, I think my sister-in-law had a birthday party. I I didn't want to go, mostly because I just didn't want to be around drinking. That's just me. That might be lame, that might be whatever, but I just didn't want to go because I'm just uncomfortable. I never really learned how to mingle, adult mingle with alcohol, if you will. So there's some arrested development there with me, but I'm just okay with it. I don't like going to those events anyway. It's not my thing. That's not how it's not fun for me. It's mostly just holding everything in, so I don't lose it in front of people and make a scene or something. But yeah, sometimes I feel like I'm just ready to burst with such things, and I don't ever want to feel like that again. And I've come to understand that, you know what, I don't have to. And man, let me tell you, it's never been a more comfortable place in my life than right now. Today, right now. I am so humbled by how good my life is. So humbled by it to reach this point, this summit, because it was a hard road leading here that, man, I just didn't, I don't know what to think was going to happen to me. I just thought, maybe I thought that I was just going to have to compromise and just have a hard relationship with a woman, but that is not the case. And I'm going to tell you, whatever problems, I don't have any real problems with my wife, but whatever issues we have, I'll take that over dealing with substances any day, any freaking day. It's it's terrible. It's sad. It's heart wrenching, and it never fades. Really, it just gets covered up because the way I could feel just speaking about it right now on this podcast, I could just still feel my body react to these moments that I still have in my memory. It's crazy, but it's real. You have no idea how far pain goes. We move on, but psychologically, emotionally, the scars can remain, and or they could still stay fresh wounds, and we just kind of compartmentalize them, never really deal with them. Me, I definitely had to get help at some points because I was just in misery at times. Too busy worried about my family to worry about myself. My health got my health uh, diminished because I was just giving away all my good life force. And at a certain point, you have a breakdown. It's like no more. But yeah, so just thinking about substances being in the rearview mirror for me, no regrets at all, no desires, and hell, to be honest with you, I hope other people can just kind of find a similar comfort level, whether it be whatever their whatever their issue is. It doesn't necessarily have to be this one, but this is mine. I don't want to. I just don't want to deal with it anymore, and I don't. So what say you? I would ask that you please like, subscribe, and please, I want you to comment. I want to know what you think. I want to know how you feel. I want to know if you have similar experiences or you know anybody who has. But comment on the YouTube platform. It's going to help me with the algorithm and it's going to help me with exposure. Thank you very much. I love you and I'll catch you on the next one. Peace.